The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Thrilled to be with you on this Monday morning. We got a big show planned for you. We're going to have the amazing Bonnie Yates with us in just a few minutes, and she's going to be answering your questions. And then a little bit later on in the show, we have a really remarkable young woman. Her name is Kelly Bron Johnson, and she's a self-advocate who self-described has a not deaf, but she has a hearing issue where I'm going to let her find the words to tell you how she describes that. But but on the spectrum, and is really blazing a trail to help other people to understand what they need to do to help individuals who are on the spectrum to successfully be employed at people's places of business, which, boy, you know, doesn't it, it just like fills my heart to know that we're working on this in so many different ways to end the disparity. We know that so many individuals who are on the autism spectrum either unemployed or underemployed. And so many of you have written in and said, you know, I have this amazing student who we sent to college, and our son, you know, and he got this great degree and he can't get hired. Because he's on the spectrum, and you know, people cannot like see that, oh, okay, I would just have to change this one little thing, or I'd have to change these three little things, and then this person would be the most exemplary employee that we would ever have, right? That employers just don't know enough. So I love that this is what she is working on. Her company that she founded is called Completely Inclusive. And it's not just for individuals on the spectrum, it's for people of all abilities. So thrilled to have her on the show a little bit later. So that's what's going to be happening a little later on. But we are going to be with you for the next hour talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. We love to hear your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your concerns, your comments, how you feel about the weather, because you know it's that time of year. You might have feelings about the weather today. Traven's showing you some of the different ways that you can connect with us here at the show, and ways that you can be watching the show and write in and all those different things. While he does that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. There is something called the live feature, which is at the bottom of the page. If you click on the little live, you can leave a comment. You can also be watching the show live. You can full screen. It used to be that like so much of the screen was about questions, and then there was the little screen where you could watch the commercials, and when we would put stuff up on the screen that was written, it would be like, you know, hello, I need a microscope, Shannon, to be able to see that. So now you can full screen it if you want to. You can put it to the side. You can listen to us in the car with just audio only. There's an audio only download on iTunes. You know, so wherever you want us, we try to be. If there's some place that we're not, would you please tell us? Because we love to be on more platforms. We just love that. Okay, so we love talking to you guys. It's our big thrill of every day. So what we do like to start the show on Monday with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are the experts talking about. How does it help us? How, like I love I love that our jargon today is doing what it actually suggests that it would do, right? It's like in big letters, distractor. Shannon's trying to talk to you, but you can't take your eyes off of distractor. Okay, so we try to give you the actual definition first whenever possible. I make as much fun of the actual definition as I can possibly muster, because everybody has to have a hobby. And then we like to give you a working definition so that hopefully you can begin to understand what this means in your life and how it can help you and your loved ones. So let's take a look at what the actual definition for distractor is. Distractor, an additional stimulus. Whenever the word stimulus is in a sentence, I don't know about you, but I go to sleep right then, right? An additional stimulus that is presented alongside the target during discriminative training. Distractors may be previously mastered stimuli or unknown stimuli. Oh, look at how many times we have the word stimuli in there. If I'd only had this last night when I couldn't go to sleep. It's a Somonex pill in the making for me. Okay, so, and if you don't know what discriminative training is, then good luck knowing what a distractor is, right? Wah, 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 wah. Right, okay, so let's move on to our actual definition and let's see if we can't make heads or tails of this. Distractor, an additional item presented alongside the target to test whether the child can still select the correct answer when they have more than one thing to choose from. Okay, so when we talk about discrete trial training, we're trying to get somebody to discriminate between one thing and another. We're trying to teach a target, and we want them to be able first to understand what it is and then to discriminate between that and something else. That is how we build language, right? So let's say, and we would never start with pen, right? But it's what I have on my desk. I need to get like a car in here, Traven. I need like a little plastic car that I can always refer to, because that's really probably, or something that the child really liked is something we would start with. And I always make fun of them that they go touch car, right? But let's say that it's pen, right? So we're trying to teach that this is a pen to a child, right? And so we say, this is a pen, and then we put it down in front of them, and then we say touch pen, and you're not seeing because my autism-live is in the way, and my pen is green. All right, let's take the orange pencil, touch pencil, right? And so we would, and now the child has no idea what I'm saying because I'm speaking a foreign language to them. They don't understand enough English to know what that is. So I gently take their hand over and I go touch pencil, and I go, yeah, pencil, it's a pencil. And then now I would say touch pencil, and the child still, and yes, that's a pencil, it's a pencil, right? And so now I'd say to them, touch pencil, and they're like, well, she goes crazy when my hand does this, so they touch it, and we go, yes, it's a pencil, good job. And now we're ruffling their hair, and some kids like tickles, or we're hugging them, we're saying, yes, good job, it's a pencil. And we do this for a while, right? But then eventually, that doesn't mean that they know what pencil is. And they don't even know what touch pencil means, but they know when I go, nah, 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 that they touch pencil and I go crazy, right? So eventually we need to move on to see if they can discriminate between a pencil and a remote control or something else, right? And they can know what a remote control is already or not. In the beginning, if we're teaching pencil, they don't know what a remote control is. But so I put the two things down now, and now I go touch pencil. Almost always the child is going to go for the remote, right? And we go no, and not a big deal. We don't go no. We just go no, and we don't do a big reaction at all, right? There's no yay that was happening before, but then we rearrange them and we go okay. Touch pencil, and now we might take them and touch, so now when there's the two things here, this is the pencil, this is not a pencil. Touch pencil, yes, right? And so they still don't know what a pencil is. Now I got to put other things in. Eventually, I put in the cup and I go touch pencil, right? And I keep changing the position so they don't think, okay, it's that I want to touch this. So whatever this is, this is the target, and whatever this is the distractor. And there might be 2 distractors, there might be 1 distractor, there might be 7 distractors, right? But usually we're going to work up to 2 distractors depending on what the thing is. And we're just having them learn what it is, touch pencil, and this is the distractor. We don't really want it to distract them because we really want them to learn that this is pencil. And by the way, This is just the first couple of steps in a long stream of steps so that eventually the child knows that this pencil has pumpkins on it, but sometimes pencils are red and sometimes they're purple, sometimes they're in curlicues, but it's a pencil and a pencil writes, and when somebody asks me for a pencil, this is what I'm going to give them, and when they say take out your pencil and write, I write with it. And when somebody says, hey, what's a writing utensil that you could use if you needed to write a note, that without saying the word pencil, they would be able to say a pencil, that they have that full global understanding of what a pencil is. So the very beginning of it, we start with that errorless learning that there's only the pencil, right? Boom. I can't get it wrong, and I'm going to help you to get the right answer, and then we're going to celebrate it. But eventually, I got to have distractors there so that you begin to discriminate, oh, this thing is associated with the word pencil. And this thing comes in many different sizes, shapes, and colors. It's still a pencil because it has different features to it. And we would talk about, well, usually there's an eraser, but not always. And usually it has a point, but not always. Usually it has lead, but not always, right? There's a lot of things to learn about a pencil. But the distractors help to show that you really know the difference between this and this. And there's much more about that, but that's what the distractor is. So they'll talk about a field of, that's the number of things in the field, including the target and the distractor. Okay, so you will see that happening. And again, we talked about this last week, DTT, discrete trial training. It's a very important step in learning because it works. It works to get somebody to know, okay, this is a pencil. But we very quickly have to move on to other things so that they understand all of the elements of the pencil. Don't think that that's all there is to it. It's step 1 through 7 of the 355 steps that we need somebody to get before they really fully understand what that is. But it works. It works. So there's our jargon. Have you all been distracted now? Okay, moving on. We have a question for you that we would love it if you would write in your answers to on Facebook or YouTube or however you connect with us. You can do it on the autism-live, right? Our question for the day for you is, what throws you off your game? Honestly, think about this for a second. Like when I call, sometimes when you're chugging along and things are going, I call it being in the wind tunnel, where it's like, it's all happening and you're there and you're present and it's all working out, right? And then something happens, and I always call that getting your cape caught in the fan, your superhero cape caught in the fan, where it just like, yanks you back and it's like, oh, I can't quite do anything right. What's wrong, right? What throws you off your game? Sometimes for me, it's when people help me. I'm just going to be honest about this. My husband has a really hard time with this, that there are some things, this is where I don't have a diagnosis of being on the spectrum, and I don't have a diagnosis of sensory processing, but I probably should sign up to go get that one because I do have sensory issues. And sometimes it massively gets in the way of me. So if I'm being organized with something, and let's say I'm doing laundry and I've got my piles of laundry, I'm folding and I've got, this, that, and whatever. My husband will come in and he's so good and he'll be like, I'm going to help you. And over the years, we've been married for almost 18 years now. And it's like over the years, I've learned to just like breathe through that, right? Because I have a system and he's got his own system. And it used to be that I'd be like, well, that's it, I'm done, I'm out. And I would leave the room and be like, well, then you do it. Because I had a system and you're doing it in a different way and I can't play, right? It's that severe with me, right? It throws me off my game. It's very hard for me to come in and like be doing something and have somebody come in and change it and then have to, like, I almost have to restart. Like that totally throws me off my game. And I've been trying to learn as a person, in my later 50s now, that I have to find a workaround for that because I can't just leave the room. I can't just, sometimes that happens at work and I can't just be like, well, then we can't do a show today, right? Right? Because I have to be flexible. And that reminds me of our kids and that stuff throws them off. And when they get thrown off, they don't have the coping strategies that we have. And sometimes that's when we see the meltdown. Not just a tantrum, but a meltdown, because there's like more to it, right? And I always say, I don't know that the experts agree with me on this, but for me, what I've seen, and as a teacher and as a mom of an individual on the spectrum, and just, being in the autism community, there's tantrums, right? Tantrum is, I cannot get my way. I want my way and I want to get my way. And then there's meltdowns. And meltdowns are like, you could give me my way now and I'm still upset and I'm not going to be unupset for a while, right? That's meltdown. And for me with meltdown, there's always a sensory element. But sometimes inflexibilities are a sensory element. So in any case, think about that. What throws you off your game? And if you are a parent of an individual on the spectrum, you got to ask yourself, what throws them off their game? We have had the young man on the show before. So Tom Bowes, he calls himself the autistic genius, and he had a baby about a year ago, so I haven't seen as many videos out of him, because you know how that happens when you have a baby. But he did some great videos, you guys, that you should check out on YouTube, and one of them was really kind of life-changing for me and my son. And he talked about, I think he calls it the 11-second rule, that when asking a person on the autism spectrum a question, that you need to pause longer than feels comfortable for you. So you ask them a question, and a lot of times they will not acknowledge that they heard you. And the control freak in me is like, hey, I just asked you a question, right? And he said it's like a computer that's running at a different speed because it's processing a lot of different things, and you hit the enter button and nothing happens. And so you hit the enter button again, and again, and what you just have done is slowed the computer down, because now it has to process all of those requests. And he says for him and a lot of people on the autism spectrum, same thing. And boy, I had a conversation with my son about it, and what throws him off his game is if I ask him a question, and then I either ask another question or I ask the question again, because he's like one thing at a time. He's like, he'll say to me frequently, you just gave me 12 things. Now I have to process 12 things. Which one would you like first? And he's 16-year-old, very verbal now, and very able to communicate, But imagine a 3-year-old who's really having to process those 12 things and doesn't have the ability to go, hey, you just messed up, and you just asked me something unreasonable. And so, they throw something, or throw a fit, or just lay down. I don't know about you, but sometimes I want to lay down. When there's a line outside my desk of people who want to talk to me, and I'm like, I just want to lay down, right? But I have the words to say, you guys, I gotta slow up. I gotta take a break here. I will deal with you all, but it's gonna take me a few minutes. Everybody have some patience, right? 3-year-old doesn't have that. So think about that. What throws you off your game? I don't know why I was getting rid of that, because we still have more. Okay, so we always have a topic of the week. See, I just got thrown off my game. Did you notice that? Okay, and our topic this week is having our eyes on the prize, right? What a great expression. And it's so easy sometimes to get lost in the minutia of the day and get into a pattern of, okay, well, today I got to get up and I got to take my child to speech, and then I got to take him to OT, and then I got to be back here to have, to start ABA, and I got to drop him off here, and I got to do that, and I got to get to the grocery store, and and it just becomes the list, right? And we lose track of what we're doing and why. It isn't just going to speech, and it isn't just going to OT, and it isn't just going to the center to get ABA. It's so important that you take at least a couple of minutes every day to remember where you're headed. What is the goal? I always say have a manifesto, put it somewhere inside a kitchen cabinet or in the drawer, in the junk drawer on the top, right? So it doesn't get lost. That has your priorities. Like, what are you going for? If you don't know, isn't it Dr. Phil who says you got to name it to claim it? Like, what are you going for? Put it in the words that you want. Don't take my words. Don't take anybody else's words. Pick the words that you want. And, I've had parents say to me, when I say to them, what do you want for your child? I've had them say, I want my child to be able to go to a 4-year college. Okay. Well, I don't know if you're going to get there. None of us know if you're going to get there, but if that's what you want, let's go all in and let's work towards that. right? Other people have said, oh, the dad who said, I would like to know that someday he can just appreciate a good piece of music, that in his life, that a song will come on and he'll be like, oh, it's my jam, you know? What a great goal, you know? And you can have more than one of these, but what are we going for? What is success going to look like? And let's go for it. Because I'll tell you what, I've seen people fall short of what their dream was. I have. That's a reality. But I don't know anybody that feels bad about it when they get there if they know they went all in. The people who suffer are the people who have the goal, don't go all in, because then they go, maybe I should have done this. That's the place you don't want to be in. So put your eyes on the prize and put your feet in the direction of where the prize is, and you start moving. And miraculous things happen. Amazing things happen. Things that you will be grateful for. Can't guarantee that you will get there, but you won't ever be sorry that you said, that's what I want, and that you move forward full force towards it. So we're going to really be pushing you today to name what it is that you want to claim. It's so important that we all be clear on what we're doing and why, right? I will tell you that for this show, very early on, I said, I just want to know on a regular basis, because I can't take on, none of us can fix everything that's wrong, right? And I can't fix everything for even one person. But my goal always every day coming into the studio is if I can save somebody 5 minutes and help them to get further to their goal, or make them feel good enough and inspired enough that they get up to do something for 5 minutes, then I feel good about it. And those 5 minutes have added up to a lot of amazing things that you guys have written and said to me. I'm so grateful to be here with you. But that's really what I focus on. I would say one person, 5 minutes, $5 is a lot of time what I say to myself. I don't know if we've saved you $5 yet, but we're going to get Bonnie Yates on in a second, and I think we'll save $5 then. All right, so what do we have on the show today? We've got the amazing Bonnie Yates, who I'm late getting to, and she's always more patient than I deserve. She's going to be answering some of your questions, and then later we have really inspirational guest, Kelly Bron Johnson. She's an adult diagnosed autistic self-advocate and author who is also hard of hearing. So those are the words that she uses. She founded Completely Inclusive, and it's a consultancy based on teaching businesses how to make their workplaces inclusive and accessible to all diverse and disabled people. So she's also on the board of an organization called Promo 21, and we're going to talk to her about what that is. So, big show. Don't go away. We're going to be right back after these messages. Stick with us.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bray.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas, spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are so lucky because it's Monday and we get to have the fabulous Bonnie Yates with us. She is a special education attorney. She is coming to us courtesy of the law firm of Hirji and Chow here in Culver City, Southern California. Welcome back, Bonnie. So thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Welcome back, Shannon.
Tell us about Hirji and Chow. Yeah.
We have great questions today from our listeners, and I want to just say that you guys are like the heart and soul of all of this. You think of the best questions. I don't think there are any bad questions. You know, at least so far they've all been, I think, really not only thought-provoking questions, but I've learned a lot in trying to research, in some cases, the answers to things you asked me that I didn't know. So it's a really synergistic process, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the Autism Live listeners. I'm also supposed to tell you that I am a proud member of the law firm of Hirji and Chow. We're a 6-attorney firm. We do special education, regional center services, disability discrimination, which encompasses injuries to children at school, and then higher education, which concerns things like, are you going to get accommodations for your SATs, or what happens when you go off to college and you need your accommodations and other kind of supports in a post-secondary environment. If you want to contact us, our phone number is 310-391-0330. If you're in Southern California, we offer a free complimentary consultation to you. And our website is www.lawyer, and then it's 4 as in number 4, children.com. And there's a lot of interesting information at the website, as well as how to get in touch with us. When we answer your questions on the air, we're answering them per California law, because I'm a licensed attorney in California. And under federal law, because the idea was originally a federal statute. And if you have a specific problem, we generally refer you to COPA, www.copaa.net. That's a multi-state directory of attorneys that do special education law, and they usually have an annual conference. The ones I've met at the annual conference seem really caring and committed, and so that's a good place to start. If you can't find what you need at COPA and you're not in California, I'd refer you to your local bar association. If you are in Northern California and you need an attorney, I know some very fine attorneys in California, Northern, so you can reach out to our office and we'll connect you with those folks. Anyway, I think that's everything we had to say.
Spectacular.
Before actually getting to the questions.
All right, I'm going to jump into the questions here. So the first one, it's lengthy, and there's a lot of things about this question that are not legal, but I want to give people the background for it, and then we'll have somebody who's more of a clinical address some of the clinical questions in it. But I wanted you to address it, Bonnie, because there's something in it specifically that I went, ooh, that's a legal thing. So the question was, hello, my daughter is 5, moderately affected by her autism and verbal. I had her end of the year meeting with her teacher pre-K, who explained to me that she isn't struggling socially and there is only one child who will play with her. Apparently the kids say, we don't want to be her friend. And this has affected her anxiety tremendously. And she has been chewing holes in her shirts, the ends of her hair off, etc. I asked the teacher at the beginning of the year to monitor her social interactions as best she could and to let me know how she was. Up to this point, I have been told she's been doing well, when in fact, she has not. The school claims she's ineligible for an IEP because she doesn't need speech, according to them. I'm now scared to send her to kindergarten when the school keeps fighting me to help monitor her socially. Is it better to keep her in public school with bad social interactions or homeschool with little peer interaction until she's older? So some of that is more clinical in nature, but this whole thing about, I've heard this many times, more and more families are saying my child has a diagnosis from a third party of autism, and the school is telling me they don't need an IEP because, and then it's fill in the blank. But a lot of times it's, well, they don't need speech, so they don't need anything at all. Is that legal, Bonnie?
Did she say, Shannon, that her child is in first grade?
So she said that this last year they were in pre-K, but right now she's supposed to be starting kindergarten.
Well, I feel as if the social problems that she's having could be tremendously minimized if she had a skilled behavior therapist. One of the beautiful things that CARD did when Nick was going to school was CARD's therapists were so fun and so loving and so creative that people did want to play with Nick because they wanted to play with CARD therapists. So that, to me, points to the need for some kind of social support, social skills support that she's not getting. Now, in terms of having a medical diagnosis and going to school with it and what they're supposed to do, if you bring them a medical diagnosis, they're supposed to assess. It's pretty low threshold for assessment. If the child is suspected of having a disability that would qualify them for IDEA services, they are supposed to assess, and there's a systemic-wide problem, and I see it a lot in the South Bay, and yes, that's a shout-out to you South Bay districts in Southern California. They try to get out of assessments because assessments lead to IEPs, and IEPs lead to accountability and services. Where is it written that the only way you qualify for IDEA services is with speech therapy? There could be many other reasons you would qualify, and we've gone through those, but autistic-like features in California is enough to get you an IEP as long as your autism has an educational impact. And clearly, she's got anxiety from the lack of appropriate social support in school, and she's actually starting to self-harm because of it, from, if I'm remembering the question right, she's pulling out her hair and things. That's an educational impact. So that's just wrong. And what I like to tell people to do in these situations is to say to the district, I've consulted with a lawyer. I'm told that you have a duty to assess and that my child likely needs social skills, that she's entitled to be educated in the least restrictive environment with the support she needs to be successful, and she's functioning at a level where I think she can be successful. And this lawyer said to me that I better go back to the district and tell them to do a bang-up job at my IEP. Otherwise, she's going to get involved. And I think that'll kickstart it a little bit. What do you think, Shannon?
Absolutely. I think these are all amazing ideas, Bonnie. It just, these kinds of things make me, like, I get mad. I love having you because you get into practicalities and about what action to take, because I get a little paralyzed. I get mad.
Well, they're bullying her, and I am offended by that because I sort of like to stick up for the underdog. I think that's what we're supposed to do. And they're bullying her, and I just want to bully them right back. You know, like, knock it off.
Yeah.
Follow the law. Get it together, you know?
Well, it's that thing, Bonnie, I think I just said this to somebody the other day, that I always have to remind myself, do I want to be right or do I want to get what my kid needs? Because I'd like to school them.
Sometimes they're the same thing.
Yes.
You know?
But sometimes you gotta like step around something, and I always want to school people and go, hey, here's the law. Yeah.
We are trying to school people, and I wanted to say to this lady, like, if she's in Southern California, she's got a specific legal problem, and she really does need to sit down and discuss with an attorney what would be the most efficient and effective way to attack this, you know? We'd want to look at the documents. I'm presuming most of the stuff hasn't been in writing, if any of it is like, wow, if you've got something that says you have a diagnosis of autism, but you don't get an IEP because you don't need speech, like, send me that, please, so that I can, like, make 5,000 copies of it and drop it from the sky onto, like, public school campuses or something with a phone number. I mean, really, that's so blatantly illegal. It's so blatantly unafraid and, like stepping on people for a long time because they think that people are stupid and they're not stupid. And just because you might not have a PhD or a PsyD doesn't mean you don't have good instincts about what your child needs. So knock off the intimidation, people. Like, stop it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Should we move on to the next one, which kind of goes hand in hand with this? The next, and Traven, we were having a little bit of a sound issue. Should we pause and get a better sound connection, or you think we're okay, Traven? Let's take a break. And we're going to come back with Bonnie because we're going to beef the sound up a little bit. So stick with us.
All right.
Hi, Lisa Ackerman back with Talk of Facts. Questions, real life questions and answers for the autism journey. Oh, are you ready for this one? Talk to me about puberty. So what I would recommend is, first and foremost, is the kids that have done the therapeutics, the medical, and the dietary allergen removal interventions tend to have an easier time at puberty. Seizures are really common for children on the spectrum, more than neurotypical populations, and they're especially most common right at or about puberty time. So it's extremely important, even if you have a 10-year-old, that you've already done an EEG, that you consider before they go through puberty to get a second EEG done. Just because you have one clean EEG with no abnormal brain activity or seizure activity, you need to do another one prior to puberty. That's one of the most common calls we get with teens on the spectrum, is they are often experiencing a seizure for what their family thinks is the first time. And the third thing is, you're gonna have a teenager, so you're really gonna have to kick it up a notch on those life skills, social skills, and getting your kid ready to be that teenager they need to be. So if you're doing that baby thing, and I know you are, where you're maybe making their lunches or helping them with laundry, we need to start bouncing some chores over to those kids. And we also need to increase social environments where they can be successful. So think about it. We've got 3 really important things that we need to look at. Puberty is a very serious issue, and we take it very seriously. So make sure you have all of your therapeutics, medical, and dietary interventions in place. Consider to do another 24-hour EEG with your physician prior to puberty. And the third most important thing, get ready to raise the bar. Your job is to really get them ready for life. And I know you can do it.
Welcome back. We are here with Bonnie Yates, and hopefully the sound is a little bit better for you. So we were looking at some questions that you guys had sent in. One of them was, how do we get school to work on the social piece? Is there a way to get it in the IEP?
Well, this does dovetail nicely with the other question. The other question presumes that there's, I guess, no duty on the part of the district to do anything except for provide academics. But we've had other discussions on Autism Live about transition to adulthood. And if you look at the IDEA, it considers to be this transition to adulthood and to employment where possible. It considers that to be extremely important. And so if you don't have the social skills to interact with other people spontaneously and successfully, how are you going to get a job interview? How are you going to pass a job interview? How are you going to keep a job? So districts do have a duty to provide social skills training in school. And if you are having problems making friends and keeping friends, sorry, there's a giant airplane flying over, that meets the criteria for an educational impact
We lost some of your volume. Did you get further away?
Yeah, that was the airplane.
No, but we're still.
If you need social skills support, because the ultimate goal is for you to be independent as an adult and work independently or work in a supported job, that needs to be part of your IEP. And districts define IDEA services narrowly because they don't want to have to provide these kinds of social skills services. There are reasons. They haven't been trained in how to do them would be one. Another is the ABA model is intensive. I'm seeing a lot of districts down here where a kid really needs ABA. They aren't even offering bad district quote-unquote IBI. They're saying that like the school counselor can take care of the social skills in a 20-minute weekly session and the speech therapist can work on pragmatics. That might be fine, but it doesn't make up for the intensity of an ABA program. And I would bet that if you ask them what the research basis is for the interventions they're choosing, they would say, we don't know because they aren't research-based. And you could ask them to give you prior written notice, which we covered a couple weeks ago. If they won't give you social skills in the manner that you think your child needs them, they have to tell you why not and what information that's based on. They absolutely have a duty to help you with social skills. We're, in lots of situations where a classroom's very structured and a student may look okay when he's just doing academic work, and then you put him out on the playground and he's lost and he isn't interacting with anybody and he doesn't have any friends. That's not a minor piece of information. That presentation has a trajectory. That person's going to have a hard time as they get older. And the older they get, the more anxiety they're going to have and the harder it's going to be for them to just do the work of learning how to socialize. So you have a right to improve in these areas, and that should be written into your IEP. And I don't remember if that's enough of an answer to the question or if there's other things that the listener
I think
asked.
parents knowing that it can be in the IEP and should be in the IEP and that they have a right to it, I think that's really what they wanted to get at. So I'm going to move on to the next question, which is, I have an 8-year-old who has a diagnosis of autism and ADHD. He is very smart and can do grade level work, but he needs to be in almost constant motion. When he was younger, his teachers had a mini trampoline at the back of the room and he could take breaks on it whenever he needed. He didn't even have to ask. Now that he is 8, the school wants to put him in a special day class. They are saying he is disruptive to the other students. This is what he needs to succeed. I don't want him in a special day class. What can I do?
So he's being excluded from the classroom because he's disruptive, quote unquote. What grade is he in?
Well, he's 8, so what is that? 2nd grade, 3rd grade? I'm not good at the math. Well, I think, third,
it depends
fourth.
on whether our kiddo went to kindergarten at 5 or 6. So he could be 8, he could be 7. So, there's the Rachel Holland case. I think it's Holland versus Sacramento Unified School District. It talks about the presumption of mainstreaming with support to be successful in the classroom. And particularly when kids are younger, the balance is tipped in favor of mainstreaming kids with supports for the social benefits unless they're too disruptive. So maybe we could get some more information from the listener about what the specific kinds of disruptive behaviors are that he's having. In the early grades, the presumption would be that you put in more supports to deal with the disruptive behavior so that he can stay in general ed for all the general ed benefits. And we can talk again about the Rachel Holland case on the air. We talked about it some. But, all your smart listeners should read the Rachel Holland case. I think it'll set them straight in terms of, unless the behaviors are just so pervasive and disruptive and can't be managed and couldn't be managed with a full-time skilled behavioral person in the classroom, for example, then you're not going to be able to move him just because it's inconvenient that you have behaviors you have to deal with. Not for a 2nd or 3rd grader. Maybe for a 7th grader or a 6th grader, but not for a 2nd or 3rd grader. The brain is still plastic, and the law favors that social immersion as articulated in the Holland case.
Okay, so moving on to our last question. I can't wait to your answer for this. Where can I find the actual wording in IDEA that says free appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment, ... I want to know the actual wording of what comes next. I find it interesting that the internet is full of interpretations of what it says, but I can't find what it actually says. And when I got this question, I was like, because I can remember looking it up years ago, and I started looking it up and I couldn't find it, Bonnie.
Yeah, I thought this was a really beautiful question, and sometimes the simplest questions are among the most profound. And so if you write down 20 USC, U.S.C, United States Code 1415. We talked about that the other day on the air when we were talking about the rules regarding private school reimbursement. If you just start at the top of 1415 and you read all the way down, you'll find that faith is discussed in there, and a lot of other interesting things are discussed in there as well. So you can Google this. You don't need a Westlaw subscription. 20 USC 1415.
Okay, so I don't have to put United States Code in the middle, just 20 USC 14.
20 USC 1415. And your individual states will also have their own definition of faith. I believe in California, it's California Education Code 56,000, 56000. But the 1415 is really a good thing for all of us to familiarize ourselves with. And I go back to 1415 all the time because it's loaded full of, chock full of goodies. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there. Check it out.
But Bonnie, is it the actual wording from IDEA or is it a discussion of it?
It is the actual wording that says that the district has a duty to provide a free, appropriate public education.
Wonderful. All right. So unfortunately, that's like our time, and we had other things that you wanted to talk about. But I guess we're going to have to put a pin.
I always have things I want to talk about. I want to talk to you about making a government claim in California. So we'll pick up with that next week.
Okay. All right. We will hang on to that idea. Bonnie, we appreciate you for being here. I'm going to ask, we're going to go to break, but Bonnie, I need for you to stay on the phone for a minute. You don't have to stay on Skype.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
All right. So
thank you.
Are we done? No disclaimer? No.
Oh, we should. No, we should talk about Hirji and Chow really quick. Where can they find you?
If anything that you listened to in the last few minutes suggests that you need more information and you're in Southern California, you can call us. Hirji and Chow, 310-391-0330. If you're somewhere else, we'll try to get you a referral to somebody in California. Otherwise, check it out on copa.net, www.lawyerforchildren.com. Everybody have a great weekend when you get there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to go to break, you guys, but we'll be right back. We've got a really amazing guest, really inspirational young woman, Kelly Bron Johnson, adult diagnosed autistic self-advocate and author, who's also hard of hearing, and she found it completely inclusive. You're not going to want to miss this. Stick with us. Back after that.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be creating a popsicle puzzle. As we do this fun activity, you'll notice these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about the skills we're using to create the craft and where you can find them on the Skills program. Skills is an ABA-based tool that helps parents create a curriculum that will help their children that are on the autism spectrum. Well, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are popsicle sticks, tape, and arts and crafts materials. So step one, you're going to take your popsicle sticks and lay them down and cover them with tape so they don't move around. Now that my popsicle sticks have been secured with tape, here comes the fun part. You're going to take your arts and crafts materials, they can be paint, markers, whatever you have, and then you're going to decorate this with a beautiful picture. This is the beautiful picture that I made. Now what I'm going to do is remove the tape. And now, as you can see, they come apart. And here is your awesome puzzle. Now, the fun part is trying to assemble the picture that you just made now that it's all been separated. I hope you enjoyed this activity with me. Until next time, guys, craft on! To find more about skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parent icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
I promised you that we were going to finish out today's show with a really inspirational young woman. Joining us via Skype right now is Kelly Bron Johnson. She is an adult diagnosed autistic self-advocate and author. She is also hard of hearing. She founded Completely Inclusive, a consultancy based on teaching businesses how to make their workplaces inclusive and accessible to all diverse and disabled people. She's also the board secretary of Promo 21, a nonprofit print shop that hires autistic or individuals with different abilities exclusively. And maybe you need to correct what I just said, I'm not sure. And the board director at Autism Canada, Canada's national autism organization, and we're very thrilled and excited to have her joining us from Canada. Kelly, first of all, thank you for being here. And I want to start by saying, you know, how important inclusion is to us here at Autism Live. And as soon as we started this interview, I was like, I should have asked you beforehand because you have a hearing issue, and I want to make sure that everything works right. And I think a lot of times ableist thinking gets in the way of a lot of other stuff, and I think you deal with that on a regular basis. So I hope that before we're done, you'll give us some ideas at Autism Live about what we need to be doing to be more inclusive.
Excellent. Okay.
So in any case, thank you and welcome. And why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about you and what mission you are on, because you are very inspirational.
Thank you. Well, I mean, my journey started with a late diagnosis. I grew up not knowing what was different. I was the weird kid. I was the quirky kid. And I did very well in school. As long as I had the structure of school and I was obedient, I knew how to follow the rules. So teachers kind of said, you know, she's kind of withdrawn. She doesn't talk very much. She's very quiet. But she's getting good marks, so we'll leave her be. So nobody really signaled anything. My parents were constantly worried because I was a very picky eater. I had a very, very limited diet, and they didn't know what to do. I think, you know, I grew up in the 80s. It wasn't, you know, in style, I guess, to look for a lot of different supports for your child. They just thought I was kind of strange. And at the same time, too, even now, it's hard for women to get diagnosed. It's not something that is that medical professionals really look for as the first step when they're looking at somebody who has different challenges. So I didn't get diagnosed until my son was diagnosed. He was about 2.5. And then I started to see a lot of similarities. I said, well, this is more than just us being related. And I sought diagnosis, and that was a huge relief for me, because finally I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel wrong anymore. I just realized that I was different. And then I was able to advocate for myself and what I needed and get the proper supports in order to really succeed in life.
Well, and I thank you for telling us that, and so honestly, because first of all, there are a lot of adults that are out there that I know are wondering if they are also on the spectrum. They write into us a lot. A lot of them have a very hard time getting a diagnosis or figuring out who to go to get a diagnosis, because not everyone diagnoses adults. And unfortunately, there have been people who have gone to seek out a diagnosis, and the professional poo-pooed them and did not listen to what they were actually saying, which is so frustrating. And many others have written to us and said, is it something I should pursue? Is it worthwhile to pursue it? And I think just hearing what you've said about, you know, that self-acceptance piece of understanding, of having a deep understanding that there's nothing wrong with you, that you are not broken, man, you know, I can't imagine how worthwhile that would be. and how that must help you as a parent to be able to then help your child.
For sure. I mean, he presents differently from me. We're not identical, but I'm able to understand, I believe, a lot of the sensory issues. And we talk through a lot. There's a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue, a lot of, this is how your brain works. And being able to give him that identity and learn for him to self-advocate is, to me, honestly, the most important thing. So we talk about differences, and we talk about the kind of challenges that he has and how some things might be more difficult for him and they might be super easy for me or for other people that he knows. And some things might be easy for him, but that's not the case for other people. And so together we're able to kind of build empathy for other people as well, and to understand that not everybody has the same perspective. And I think that will really help him a lot in life in general.
It's a remarkable thing. Now, it wasn't enough for you to just gain this information and be able to help your son. You now have decided to take it a step further in many different ways, but talk to us a little bit about Completely Inclusive.
So that was started, well, it's actually an interesting story. That was started actually when I was doing some work with Autism Canada, and we went to Parliament to speak to the government about different issues that were happening with autistic adults. And I came home from that visit and I spoke to my son. At the time he was 8, and I said, what I did today is to kind of help you so that when you're an adult, you'll be able to hopefully get a job easily and be integrated into the workplace. And I'm trying to kind of forge that path to make it easier for you than it was for me. And, he was 8 at the time. He says, well, Mom, you've got 10 years. I'll be 18. That's fine. You've got 10 years to do this. And when he said that, I was like, well, actually, you know what? Maybe he's right. The audacity of a child to say, you've got 10 years. That's not so bad. What's the problem,
Right.
Mom?
You can get it done in 10.
Yeah, no problem. So I said, you know what? Okay, let's go for it.
Challenge on.
Pretty much. So I said, I'm going to start this company. I'm going to start consulting. I'm going to start working with companies and see if we can change company culture to be more inclusive. And my hope is that by changing companies one at a time, eventually that's going to change all of society, because they need to see the value of things like universal design. They need to see the value of diversity and inclusion. And I just think it's going to spread. And I decided that even if I don't make tons of money, it's important. This is the legacy that I want to leave, and this is the path that I want for my child. I had a lot of difficulties with, in the workplace, and I just don't want him to have to go through that.
So how does this work? Does the company come to you, or does a person who wants to work at a company come to you and say, I need some help and support because I'm doing my job, but I'm having trouble with this, and this, and I wish my employer knew? Do you work both ways? How does this work?
I work primarily with the company itself. If they do signal that there is a particular person that's already there, then I will definitely support that. But I go in and I will do a workplace audit. I will check for accessibility. And again, not just for autism, but for all disabilities. I want to make sure wheelchairs can get in. I want to make sure bathrooms have non-gendered bathrooms, that people feel comfortable. I look for issues of cultural appropriation, anything that would make somebody feel marginalized or excluded. I work with companies as well with their job postings, with their HR manuals, to make sure that the language they're using is inclusive. Because a lot of the times they say, you know what, you're telling me that there's people out there, you're telling me there's disabled people out there that want to work with us, but why aren't they knocking on our door? And I say, well, there's probably something about the job posting or about the way that you're advertising your culture that they're not sure. They're not sure that they would fit in there, and you're not making them feel welcome. And so I really work closely. I also give trainings to managers and to staff, because I know even from my own experience, sometimes when you say that you're hard of hearing, or I've been very involved with the deaf community as well. You go and you try to order food and you get this deer in headlights look. And I've even spoken to deaf people who said, they're looking for accommodations at the airport, and they come up and they signal that they're deaf, and the person offers them a chair.
Right.
So there's a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of misunderstanding about what autism is, about what any disability is, and what we need. And I'm trying to change the face of what people think or what they expect to see when they see a disabled person.
Well, I think that is an amazing journey to be on, and I really appreciate that you're doing that, because I think we all, I sometimes have this, I'm a parent of an individual who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. I am a daughter of a woman who had some profound physical challenges and often was in a wheelchair as I was growing up. So I tend to think that my mind is a little bit more open to things until I hit a wall and realize, okay, that was me just not thinking it through. And it's always very humbling, and I feel like, oh, even as we were starting this, and I was like, oh, I don't know the level of your hearing, but I was like, why did we not have a conversation with you? Clearly it's working, but I started by saying, talk to us about, because I will be honest with you, for the second time in a week, we had a guest who 2 weeks ago was that I really wanted to have on the show, with a group of people who opted to not be on the show. And I found out later it's because she's deaf and reads lips, and she was concerned about whether it was going to work for her. And I was like, I would have made any accommodation. But it's wrong of me to assume that somebody would know that. So what could we be doing here on the show if we have someone who's deaf or hard of hearing? What would be the accommodation that we could make to do an interview in this sort of a format easier for them?
I think in my case, I can see your lips when the video is back on you, and that's fine. I think the option, if that's a possibility, is to have a live interpretation. And I don't know exactly how that would work in the US. I know that here we do get 90 minutes for free. It's a government service called the Video Relay Service Canada. So that's always an option, that you would have then ASL and speech at the same time. That's, of course, if the person uses ASL, because not all deaf people use ASL.
Yeah.
I'm learning, actually.
Interesting.
I know that for me, I absolutely love live captions. Again, if that's another option, if you had it on the screen on the side and there was live captioning. I have an app on my phone that allows me to do live captioning. So that's actually Google. It's free. Okay. Everybody, these kind of accessibility things, and that's another thing actually I tell companies in general. A lot of these accessibility tips or devices or apps are actually free, and some of them are included in when you buy your regular phone, and that's on Android or iPhone. So these are all things that, again, but you have to kind of know about, and asking people and saying, hey, you know what, we're open. I think coming out immediately saying, hey, we're open to trying working with people who are using sign. We're open to trying to work with live captions. We're willing to try.
Yeah.
And I think that really is the first step.
All right. Traven, we're gonna have a meeting about this. We're gonna get on this. So talk to us a little bit about Promo 21.
It's actually really fantastic and really exciting for me, because I met a gentleman at another disability employment event in January, and he was just talking about this idea of having this print shop, and this dream he had was basically to try to find employment for adults. His girlfriend's son is autistic, and after the age of 21, you kind of age out of the system, and there's nothing for people to do anymore. So he said, this can't be right. We have to find something. So he had this idea of making this print shop and hiring only autistic and or intellectually disabled people. And so I said, hey, give me your number. We're going to try and make this happen. Let's do it. And within a couple of months, all the paperwork and everything was in. The board was assembled, and voila, in mid-July, it opened. And we've got 5 employees now working different schedules. Some of them work part-time, some of them work full-time. It's all based on what they want to do and what works best for them. The workshop is made to accommodate them and their skills. but in general, everybody is learning all the tasks that are involved in silk screening. So any of them can kind of interchange and they can do the different tasks. They're not just relegated to one task. And, you know, it's a nonprofit, so we are trying to get more sales, of course, but really the goal is to give people skills that they can then use and transfer. I never wanted to start the print shop to say this is going to be your forever career. I mean, that's fantastic if we have loyal employees that want to stay a long time. What I want is for people to gain the confidence and the skills that they need that they can then go and get further employment if that's what they want to do. I just want those options there, because otherwise a lot of disabled people age out of the school system and then they sit around twiddling their thumbs because nobody wants to take a chance on them.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, you've got no experience, so what do we do with you? I want to give them experience and confidence. A lot of it is confidence too, that they can do something.
A job is everything. A job is everything.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everything that you are doing through these two organizations. How can people, let's start with Completely Inclusive. How can people find you if they want to have their business have a check through?
So I love social media. I have a bit of a marketing background, so you will find me on LinkedIn posting every day on both my company page and on my personal page. We have a Facebook account. We have Instagram. Otherwise, people can email me directly. It's kelly@compinclude.ca, and maybe we can spell that out on the screen after. And yeah, otherwise, I don't hide. I don't hide on the internet. You Google my name and people can find me easily.
Tell us what it is again, so that we'll put it up on the screen right now. Let's go ahead, because some people they listen on YouTube, so let's spell it out for them.
It's Kelly, Kelly, at COMPINCLUS.ca.
Okay. I think, did you get that, Traven? C-O-N?
C-O-M. Michael? Yeah.
Okay.
P like Peter.
Yes.
I-N like Norman. C-L-U-S.
I left out the, okay.
.ca.
I left out the U. .ca. Okay. So, and then if somebody wants to have some shirts silk screened, or they've got a project that's coming up that there it is up on the screen because he's so good. And they've got a project coming up and they'd like to use Promo 21, where would they find them?
Promo 21 also has a website. It's promo21.org, and there's a LinkedIn page as well. Or you can contact me and I will put you right in touch with Martin Gould. He is the general director.
Okay, you guys, put your money where your mouth is. If you need some shirts silk screened, that's the place to go. Kelly, you are such an inspiration. So thrilled to have you here. Keep us posted on what's happening, because the job piece is so important, and we're thrilled that you're working on it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, we are out of time, you guys. I think we've gone a little bit over here, but I wanted to thank all of you for being here. Let's talk a little bit about, I do this every Monday. Okay, so this week on the show, tomorrow, the best of, you'll see that tomorrow. Then on Wednesday, we have Evelyn Kung answering your questions. On Thursday, we have autism expert Jessica Plogue-Fragola. Pardon me for how I just slaughtered her name. And then we have Stephen Clark, host of Cyber Time Bite podcast. That's going to be wonderful. And then on Friday, we have Jeanette Magaro, the founder of Autism in the Classrooms. I'm just going to put it on your radar. We got a bunch of guests that are coming up in the next couple of months. We are hoping that we are going to have Erin Murphy here on the show with us. Do you remember her? She's Tabitha from Bewitched. Because she's getting an award at Denim & Diamond. So we're trying to see if we can get her in the studio here with us. She's just a lovely human being. And we've got a bunch of other guests that are coming along. So we're going to be back tomorrow with the best of. Don't forget. And then be here on Wednesday live when Evelyn Kung answers your questions. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.